Hey, what's up guys? Jake with Legacy 4x4 here again, and today we're back working on the 1990 Ford Bronco Overlander. And today we're going to be making two crucial pieces of equipment for this truck that's going to make it an extremely complete and extremely capable overland vehicle. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so for this project, when you go overlanding, there's obviously a few things you're going to want in order to be comfortable out in the woods. You're going to want to have some way to cook food, you're going to obviously need water, and you're going to want some electricity. In the past, you've seen me do a solar system on the Bronco, which runs two large 100 amp hour batteries. So the 30 watt solar panel and those two large batteries give me ample electricity for a long weekend out in the woods. This truck is mostly designed to do a 2 to 4 day trip out in the woods, so it doesn't need to be able to do like, multiple week long adventure without having the ability to stock up. The plan is if I wanted to go do 2 or 3 weeks out somewhere, I would be able to go stop into a town, refill some supplies, charge up the batteries and all that kind of stuff. Now in the back of this truck, I haven't built it yet, but pretty soon I'm going to be building a bed system in the back of the truck that uses two large drawers with a mattress sitting on top of them. So the vast majority of my rear cargo space is going to be taken up by other stuff. With that said, I need to have fuel, so propane for my stove, and I'm going to need to have water. And my solution to these two problems are going to be some side-mounted, kind of like saddlebag type things that mount on the side of the back of the Bronco and provide me a place to mount these two jugs at. So on one side, on the passenger side, I'm planning on mounting this 20-pound propane tank. I've designed this mount so that it can also hold a 30-pound or larger propane tank as well, and then a 5-gallon water bucket. So this water bucket, because I don't want to do like an onboard water with a pump and all that stuff, I decided to just go with one of your normal, 5-gallon, you see these at like sporting events and stuff, water jug. It's got a spigot on the bottom of it, so you've got it already built in, so you've got a way to wash dishes, you've got a way to fill up cups, all that kind of stuff right from the jug without any additional hardware necessary. All we have to do is build a mount on the side. So we've got these two things, we're going to build the two mounts for these today. Let me go ahead and walk you guys through the plan and we'll get started putting these things together. Alright, so I know we haven't used the CNC machine in a while. I moved and it was having some issues, but I've eventually gotten it all fixed up. I ended up having to just replace my plasma cutter. I went with a prime weld, the Cut 61 like what Matt has, and that is working out great on this machine. Anyway, so today we're going to be using the CNC machine to cut out all of these parts. So I designed these parts on SolidWorks. I have a personal use license for SolidWorks. So I designed this entire project on SolidWorks so that I have something to cut with. It's going to be entirely made out of sheet metal because I happen to have a lot of scrap sheet metal that has just been kind of like collecting dust in the back of the shop here. So what we're going to do first is we got to cut out of some 1/8 inch, we've got to cut a handful of bracketry stuff that's going to mount onto the truck. And then we're going to use some 1/4 inch pieces to cut out a support frame that's going to hold these two bottles onto the side of the truck. So I'm going to pull up Linux CNC, I'm going to turn on the system, and we're going to start cutting out some parts. So let's go ahead and get to that part next. Okay, so we got all the parts cut for at least one of them on the plasma cutter. I got to go through, I don't have a full-size piece of 1/8 inch, so I got to go through and individually cut the remainder. But what you guys just witnessed there was a full-speed demonstration of the CNC machine as it was functioning and working as it's supposed to. For the most part anyways. I still got a little bit of dialing I have to do for the new plasma cutter, but we'll get to that later on. So essentially what we've made here is I have these little arms. I have a flat plate. This is obviously going to be what the stuff rests on. These arms are going to be underneath of that plate, and it's going to allow this to rotate up and lock into position. So when you're not carrying around a propane tank, you can lock this up against the truck so that way you don't have an extra foot hanging off of the side unless you're going to be having a propane tank. In addition, we have the parts to make the bracket. So on the table, I have an H-shaped bracket that's going to mount on the truck itself. And then I have these little side arms. These side arms go perpendicular to that bracket. They provide the necessary force to support the bracket and keep it into place, to support our arm here, and to hold our plate in place. These obviously have Legacy 4x4 cut into them. Kind of a hard cut to do. It's kind of small lettering. Plasma cutters aren't very good at high resolution stuff, so they work. They're nice enough. These go on the H plate, and then we have this little part here. I will show you guys, I'm gonna weld up this plate real quick, and then I'll show you guys what this looks like before we get to the finishing of it. So let me go ahead and turn on the welder and weld up this plate and maybe give you guys a better idea of what this design is gonna look like all finished up. So as you guys can see, what my hands are on right now, this is the part that's gonna mount onto the vehicle. It's the part that has Legacy 4x4 cut into the side of it, and we have on the back here our little H bracket type setup. So this is going to mount onto the vehicle, onto one of the body panels, and this is what's going to tie the propane tank to the truck. Now below it we simply have what effectively is just a platform. So to make this platform, I cut out 2 of these little 1/4-inch legs. These provide the majority of the support and structure for this platform, and then on the underside of it I used a scrap piece of 1-inch angle iron and I inverted it sideways to make a triangle, and then I welded the bottom of it and the inside corners of it here and here. This provides the center structure where most of the weight of whatever we put on this is going to be located. Now, I could have done a ladder type system back here. I could have crossed more in here. I could have added more supports, but truthfully, it's not necessary. A propane tank, a 20-pound propane tank, and also a 5-gallon water jug both weigh approximately 40 pounds. And with this in the down position, this plate will be able to hold plenty of weight, substantially more than 40 pounds. Now, obviously, if you were to leave it like this and you put it on the truck, the plate's going to just hang completely flush. So that is why we have a couple of additional holes up here at the top of it, as you can see. Now, in one of those holes, we're going to put an eye hook. It's going to go in kind of like this, or better so you guys can see, like so. And then there's a matching hole on the bottom of it as well. Between those 2 eye hooks, I'm going to use some 550 cord because I happen to have a lot of it because of what I do. So I have a lot of 550 cord. I'm just going to run a piece of 550 cord between the 2 pieces, tie a knot into both ends, and then that's going to be what holds this plate at the 90-degree mark. When you want to stow the plate, say you're not carrying a propane tank, you want to stow it, you can flip this up, and there are other corresponding holes here which you can run a cotter pin through, like so. There's one on both sides, so you can get 2 different pins in there, and that will keep the tray from falling down if you don't have anything loaded on it. That way, if you're just like driving the Bronco around town or something, like I'm gonna probably do sometimes, I don't need to have the extra wings on the outside of it. Now, one concern could be that yes, by having something stick outside of the width of the vehicle, you are increasing the chance that you're going to hit something, but I did measure the mirrors on the Bronco are 11 inches out the side of the truck because they're on those little triangle hooks there that go outside of the truck. And so this piece is going to be 12 inches out, total 12 inches out, so it's about the same as the mirrors. So really effectively you're not making the Bronco much wider than what it already is if you account for the mirrors. In addition to that, the Bronco is a full-size truck, but it is still not as wide as like my F350 is. So even with the propane tanks on it, the Bronco will still fit in the lanes of traffic just fine. It's still not going to cause a potential hazard to anybody else on the road. Is it a risk? Yes. Could somebody sideswipe me? Could I sideswipe somebody? Yes. But overall, this should be relatively low risk, I think. Especially with, like I said, if you're not going camping or anything with it, you can just tuck these up out of the way and just put these on the side of the truck. So this is a nice clean solution, I think, to solve our problem of getting propane and water on the truck. Now, to mount it to the truck, there's a total of 6 holes that are along this backside here. I actually have to drill one of them out. The plasma cutter didn't cut one of them for some reason. But we got a total of 6 3/8" holes. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to use rib nuts on the truck, and we're going to bolt it in with those 6 different holes. Again, that should provide plenty of strength. And if I ever needed to, if I realize that that's not enough, I can come through and along this H panel, I can add additional holes in here if I need to after the fact. Now we got it almost done. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take it back apart again. I'm about done test fitting. I've got to clean up a few pieces of it, and then we're going to powder coat it. We're going to powder coat it just a color of black. That's going to match some of the other stuff we have on the truck there. It should give it a nice, cool, like textured finish to it, and the powder coat will be resistant to pretty much anything because it's powder coat. Fortunately, this will fit in my oven, so that's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and I'm going to clean this up a little bit, sandblast it, put it in the powder coater, and then we'll see what this looks like. Alright, so we got all of our pieces done. As I showed you before, this is the piece that goes on the truck. This is the flat panel mount for the vehicle itself. In hindsight, I could have made this a little shorter. It really doesn't need to be as tall as it is, and it is going to be kind of hard to fit on the Bronco. Honestly, I think I'm going to end up having to put this on just the passenger side. I'll have to put both of these on the passenger side because the driver's side has the gas tank, and so it's either put it on the driver's side right behind the driver's door, which then wouldn't match where I've already drilled the holes on the back passenger side, or put it on both of them on the passenger side. So I haven't really decided how I want to do that yet, but we got it done anyways. So this is what this looks like. You can see up here we have the eye hooks. This is where the 550 cord will get tied to. That is going to hold the tray in the down position, and then we've got our pin holes here where the pin can go to support this into place. So with this piece done, we also have our lower tray. As you can see, the corresponding eye hooks here, and then the pivot joints down there and there. So we got it all done. I'm going to finish drilling these holes on the Bronco and finish installing the nut certs. So to install this on the truck, I'm going to be using a rib nut. They look a little like this. You've seen me use them before. Basically, you use a tool similar to this one, and you screw the rib nut onto it, drill a hole in the vehicle, open it up, screw it all the way down, and now when I go to put this in the vehicle, it's going to pull this tight, and it's going to make this flare out like a rivet and pinch it, but it's going to give me an insert in the vehicle that will allow me to then screw through a normal 5/16 bolt. The reason why I'm choosing to do it this way is because I don't have access to the back side of these panels, and so I wanted to have something that was like captured in it to hold this into place. So rib nut was the solution I came up with. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and drill the rest of these bolts, and then I'll show you guys what one of these looks like installed on the truck. We got these two things completely finished up. I did end up deciding on putting both of them on the same side, the passenger side of the Bronco. I ended up going that route for a couple different reasons. First off, on the driver's side, if I put it over there, I would have been blocking the fuel tank. And what I should have done, honestly, is I should have looked at it in advance, and I should have realized I had to put them farther up near the doors, like where the water jug is, but I didn't. And so if I were to, move this one, move it to the driver's side up to the front there so it cleared the passenger, or it cleared the fuel tank, then there would have just been these 6 holes into the frame of the Bronco, or into the skin of the Bronco here, that wouldn't have had anything on it. And so I didn't want that. I thought that would look even worse. So I figured I'd go both of them on the same side. And then in addition to that too, if I ever decide that these are not the route I want to go and I wanted to go something different, I can reuse the total of 12 holes that are on this side of the Bronco, and I can then do like some kind of a table system over here, so you got more cook space, either trash can space, etc., on the passenger side of the Bronco. So that was what I decided what was going to work best for what I wanted out of this truck. But let me show you guys what these look like in total. As you can see right here, I have the propane tank at the back. This is because when you pull out the kitchen drawer that we're going to build here in a couple of videos, when you pull out that drawer, then you can just hook up the air or the propane to this tank right here, not have to move this propane tank. Up in front of that, I have the water jug. I need to go get some straps for it, so I don't have the straps that'll hold this into place. As you can see, this is just a standard 5-gallon water jug that you use for like sporting events or for any sort of thing where you need 5 gallons of water. The real reason I went with this type of jug was because it has a spigot on the bottom of it right here. So the nice part about that is that I don't have to do any kind of pump system. Don't got to do anything complicated for it. All you got to do is fill up this water jug. I can carry additional water jugs on the roof rack or in the back of the Bronco, and I can just top this off as I need it, and I've got instant on-demand water. Now it's not going to have super high water pressure, so maybe not the best for washing dishes if you wanted to have high water pressure, but it'll do plenty enough for the kind of camping that the Bronco is going to be seeing. Now both of these are very rigid. They are, as you can see, like that's not going to go anywhere while you're driving down the road. They do stick out 1 foot, so they do add a foot of width onto the Bronco, but if you move up to the front here, you can kind of see at the very front they do not stick out any farther than the mirrors on the Bronco do. So it sticks out a little bit, but not so much that I'm worried about it. Now With that said, I probably wouldn't like drive on the highway super far with them like this. Maybe if you're like just coming out of a campsite and you're just going into town to go refill or something, that'll be fine. But for the most part, these are gonna be carried probably up on the roof rack while I go across country, while I go, you know, on highways and things like that. They'll be carried up on the roof rack, so they're out of the way and a little bit more secure and not at risk of getting knocked off on something. However, when you're doing some light off-roading, if you're moving between campsites, if you're not really worried about running into other cars on the road, then this will work to keep them on here while you traverse around a campground. Now, like I said, they are really tight. You know, this isn't gonna go anywhere. This won't go anywhere once it's strapped down, of course. So they do what they're supposed to do, which is hold it. This is a full propane tank, so this weighs about 37 pounds. 5 gallons of water will weigh just over 40 pounds once it's all filled up. So they're about the same weight. They're about the same amount of structure. Now the big benefit, I'll take you to the water can here. Now, the big benefit, if I take the water can off, you can see what this looks like. So this does block my charging port, my shore power charger, but again, easy enough to just remove that, and then I can still access the shore charger. It's just the plate is directly above it there. Now, the real big benefit is these fold. So when I don't have something on them, I can physically, well, I tighten these bolts a little too much, but these will fold up like so. And they will lock into place using these little cotter pins. So there's matching holes on it, so you can push up into place. Like I said, I got the bolts really tight right now to give it some rigidity. I use just wing nuts on these, and I am going to carry around some hand tools. This is just a 9/16 socket, just to really quickly tighten this up if you want to make it a little tighter, and wing nuts, super easy. Use these little cotter pins, and they slide through the edge of this frame and into the matching bolt holes on the subframe, which is going to hold this into place when I don't want to have these out there. So now you're only extending out about 1.5 to 2 inches outside the truck instead of the full foot. You can slide it back down again, and then you can see that it is held in place by a combination of things. First off, obviously you have the tension from the bolts that is holding this into place, and then also you have some 550 cord, which is also going to keep it from bowing down any farther. The 550 cord is just 2 bowline knots on each side of it to hold this into place nice and tight. Minus the straps, that's what that looks like when you have something loaded on top of it, and now you've got a great place to work. And then on the same token, like I said, if I ever want to do a table or something, I put a piece of wood down here, just a flat piece of wood between those two pieces if I need more like counter space, if I need more space to work, or if I just need a place to put things. This is now a really valuable spot on the Bronco. When you're doing something like this Bronco, you really got to try to capitalize on as much free space as possible. So the entire back of this Bronco is going to be drawers, storage, and bed space. Then you have the driver compartment, obviously, for myself and my dog. And then this is what we have on the side to kind of capitalize on some of that space. We also have the roof rack to carry around excess materials, tools, things like that are going to be all stored up on the roof rack probably for the most part. Anyways, that is this. I know this video, I didn't do a lot of the process of like the time-lapse stuff, and I apologize for that, but it is what it is. So you guys get to see what the finished product looks like. On the next video on the Bronco, we're going to be redoing the rear bumper. So I made that tube front bumper, I've got the tube roof rack, I've got the tube rock slider steps on the side, and I don't think the rear bumper matches the rest of the truck. I know I just made that bumper a couple months ago, but we're going to remake it. I've got another stick of tubing, so we're going to make one more rear bumper. We'll do that one next, and then after the rear bumper, we'll move right along into getting the back of this Bronco built out and show you guys what the camping setup looks like. I hope y'all like this. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.